Now we can do it.
Okay, we call the meeting to order for the final PRAC meeting of 2021, November 1st. Start with roll call. I'm Harry Finley.
Will Harbauer.
Ali Westmeyer.
Todd Grant.
Greg Court.
Lindsay Buford.
Caleb Kristen. Chris Patrick.
And welcome, Angela.
Yes, thank you.
Councilwoman Bourne. Hello.
Hey, how's everybody?
As well. I will start with the review of action items from August 2nd. Seems to be one good. I'm looking through one action item that Will had brought up about essentially building a walking or multi-use path around the Three Meadows Pond. Do you have any additional input, objections, or changes? I believe it was 6 to 0. Yes, 6 days. 0 nays. Any additional input?
Was that was, I wasn't at the last meeting, so that was approved, or the motion was approved, was that then taken to the Recreation Committee?
So, yes,
Yeah.
Will had made a recommendation for building a walking path or actually a multi-use path to be installed around the Three Meadows Pond. We didn't come up with any details of connection points to the road or wherever. Just a preliminary recommendation. And there were 6 votes for and 0 against.
Can I ask what the feedback was from the Rec Committee?
There's no holdup on my end. I brought it forward and I think the pushback we were getting was from, the way I understand it, was from the administration for some reason, some kind of issues of some sort. But nothing on my end, or I didn't see anything from my committee that I was aware of, so.
So was that taken to City Council then after the Rec
I
Committee?
brought it up in the report, and I did mention it. I didn't hear any pushback from the council, but maybe there isn't, I don't know about it. But that's what I recall.
Okay. Okay.
I shouldn't say all administration, but administration has issue, or really issue. I'll have to ask you about
Yeah, that'd be nice if you could.
that. I will do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Should we vote? Sure.
We need to accept the minutes, improvements.
Should we move to agenda number 2?
Oh, should I say, oh yeah, go ahead.
Approval of minutes from August 2nd, 2021. Everyone get a chance to look through the minutes? Vote to approve.
A motion to approve the minutes from last August 2nd.
Second that. Okay. That leads us to the park reports. And I'll just go in the same order as the previous meeting. You can start with Rivercrest. Doesn't look like Rick is here. Milestone.
That's me. By the way, Milestone looks great. I think the last time I talked, it was on our agenda on the minutes from August 2nd. Milestone looks really nice. So I didn't have a chance. I was hoping we could all meet last month so I could mention it, but it looks really, really, really good over there after I mentioned it. Like, things are cleaned up, things have been moved out. It looks sharp. So thanks. And to
We
everyone.
still have some work to do.
Yeah.
In that brushy area.
Yeah.
We had some trees removed and stuff, so a little bit more to do, as time permits, but.
It was definitely like just driving past. It was a definite change, like just the overhanging trees, the limbs moved out of the way so people could walk. It looks, just from driving past it, it looks much more attractive. So just want to pass that on to you and the staff over there. So thank you. That concludes my report right now for over there at Milestone. You're welcome.
Next park would be Orleans, and then you'll see Randy in attendance, which leads us to Municipal Park.
I have nothing more to add. You're not. I know, right?
Christopher.
That's a first.
I know, I mean, I gave you a page last time, so. Everything looks good now. I know,
Would you like me to address a few of those?
well, I know you guys have a lot of stuff going on
Okay.
with these that are gonna be taken care of before next season, like the orange stuff, or the yellow stuff over the fence.
Fence stoppers.
Shavings gotta get replaced and stuff like that. And I know you guys have been talking about replacing, whether you're going to update the kids' play set or completely replace the entire thing because parts aren't available
Yeah,
for the
that's
set as it is now.
ongoing, yes.
Yeah.
I believe there's some quotations that have been taken. The blue boxes, you talk with PABSC, that's their equipment, and also the Gatorade machine.
Yeah,
I guess they, yeah, with it being inoperable, then I think they were advised through the health department
Mhm.
to cease in that, just because of the contact.
yeah,
So they probably will resume and stock those.
Okay.
So
okay.
those are the answers I got.
Now, we had not talked, I had brought up those 3 little dead trees back by the batting cages.
Yep.
Has there been any talk about anything we can do with that area, or?
Yes, we actually did have some discussion, me and Rob Ross, and at just the kind of the beginning of that, because those trees are, been there for quite a while and, really haven't developed
Yeah,
like you would like them to. And a lot of that is because they're planted amongst all that asphalt, so there's an extreme amount of heat that's built up around them. So, I mean, they were planted, for use for shade.
yeah,
So, we're looking into, maybe some shade structures
yeah, that'd be great.
to, enhance, at least we won't have the issues
Okay.
with the trees constantly dying, because we have replaced a few over the years.
Right.
We're having the same issue at Rivercrest, a couple that are in decline, so.
Okay.
I had an interaction that Sports was bringing up. It was about a month ago around dusk. I was with my kids at the playground, and the tennis courts, which is like half of the hard surface there, there was nobody using it, so the lights were all on. And I just went over and flipped them off. And all of a sudden, hey, what are you doing? And there's people over at the pickleball courts. And I can kind of direct you where that is exactly, the corner that they were playing. But they said that with all the pickleball court lights on, they couldn't see part of the court. So they turned on all the lights in the whole facility just to light up like a small corner. So I think if maybe one of those lights was redirected slightly, and they had actually said that they had put out a request for LEDs for those, which I've never heard of. But in any case, some folks are turning all the lights on and just kind of leaving them on until they go off at 11 or whatever for one small corner of the pickleball court.
I know they're looking at upgrading those lights there, because those lights are probably, 40 years old.
They're a little sad looking.
Yeah, yeah, so the condition of the poles and everything are getting pretty bad, so. And I know that's been a request, to get some quotations to get those replaced.
And of course, the pool heater. I must ask about the pool heater.
Pool heater, I haven't heard a thing about it.
Okay.
Not surprising.
Is there anything that I can do?
I don't know. I mean, it's on the agenda, or it was on there. I really didn't hear much about that, or the, extended hours.
Yeah.
I know that's comes up pretty much every year, especially when you have a very warm summer. But the big deal, or the big item with that is staffing.
Yeah.
When your staff goes back to school as early as they do now, it's just, it's hard to, and of course, this year is even worse than most.
Have we ever thought about working with the high school DECA club on the pool and allowing them to take some kind of ownership? Because with the high school involved, with them involved, we stand a better chance of getting high school kids there longer to keep it open. Plus, it would give them experience. I mean, if DECA was able to get involved in that, that'd be a great project.
Yeah.
Are the lifeguards mostly high schoolers?
Yeah.
They are? So they should be available in the afternoons and weekends at least.
I would think, yeah. But I think if we got a push from DECA inside the high school, I think it would be a lot different than just us or YMCA or somebody coming out and saying, hey, we need extra people. You know, we could work with NHS, maybe get some volunteer hours for the NHS kids for doing that, something like that.
Yeah, but there's still certifications that they.
Right. But I mean, two birds with one stone, right?
Doesn't hurt to ask
Yeah,
questions.
yeah. I mean, if we could do something like that, I think that it would help. I mean, it would help the kids a lot in high school. Because, you know, you get these kids that are in NHS and they have to put in so many volunteer hours per semester. Well, if we can get some of them that are able to do volunteer hours as lifeguards and fulfill some of that, and they have those certifications, everybody wins. Just a thought. So in summary, pool heater.
Guess that's my cue. Next park would be Woodlands. Randy is out here. That would be.
And I think Randy has put in his resignation, from what I remember seeing in the email.
Yes. I had a couple of questions about Woodlands, maybe others have noticed, or Greg. Around each, or near each of the concrete pads for the sculpture, there's an electrical box?
Yes.
What's that for?
Actually, last week, I believe it was last week, they started installing lights.
Okay.
So there's lights on each pad. And I believe the row along East Boundary is complete. They may be on this evening. And then the others, they're continuing to work on.
So is the park open past dark? Because I know like Bicentennial closes at dark.
By ordinance, probably not.
Probably not. Open?
Open.
It's definitely not open.
So who's enjoying the lit sculptures?
As you drive by, you can see them.
Oh, semi-drivers, right?
So, okay, on the back of disc golf tee number 9, there's a big sign that shows kind of the layout of the course. And there's been, to be polite, some graffiti on the back of that for some time.
Oh, okay.
And so.
That's the sign with the diagram of
Yes.
the layout?
Tee number 9. It's right on the walking path. And I was there with my kids a couple weeks ago, and there's the mulch is really low, so there's this exposed fabric. Lots of places in the playground.
We've got playground mulch coming yet this year. We've been rained out several times with these monsoons that we've had. But we do have 3 semi-loads going to be blown in, Municipal, Rivercrest, and some of the others, depending on how much product's left. But, so that's still in the works. We got a PO for that.
Okay.
To do that.
Is there potentially a thought, just going back to the electrical outlets with the artworks, is there a thought maybe some installations might require electricity for like movement or?
No, I think it's just lighting,
Yeah.
that was all the need for, with the installation of the pads, part of the plan.
So I mean, what we're talking about, so what I was going to bring up is that I assume that these are going to be lights that are shining vertically up on the sculpture.
Yes.
So a lot of people would consider that to be light pollution, which makes the night sky difficult to see for us to kind of enjoy. But more importantly, that's harmful to local creatures in the habitat. That's why there's institutes like the International Dark Sky Association that exist. They just shine light directly into the sky. I think if there's any committee in the city that, should put a say in as far as environmental stewardship, it's us. And That's why I brought up the question of why are the electrical boxes there, and to find out that there's lights that are gonna be on at night at a park that you can't get into other than drive by, I question that. Do you know if they're, like, how late in the night are they on?
That I don't even know. I can try to find those out.
I think that's a good point about like solution. I do have something about woodlands as well. The walking path, is there any updates on the path? Have we put new gravel or new screen on at all? There's still some low points, and it does tend to get flooded over there. And it just seems like the path either needs to be brought up a little bit, because like, it just goes with the contour of the land. I mean, there's some parts that go underwater pretty quickly. And it's not even that,
Yeah.
rains a little bit and it's
Yeah,
under.
a lot of the park's been,
Yeah.
very wet this
Yeah.
year,
But
October,
Right.
of course, but,
It's just,
yeah, that's just something, that we do as needed and as time permits, in most cases.
it's just such an active park that
Right.
it's
Yeah.
like, well, people are walking around the path because it's actually easier to walk on the grass, which is not wet, which is ironic. And then you walk around the puddle, or puddles, giant puddles, which, it's just feels like it needs to be brought up, whether graded, regraded, or something, so.
I'd actually like to see it paved.
No,
That the maintenance would be, not as much. Maybe someday. But a lot of people do,
Yeah, I mean-
like the,
I kind of like the gravel too, but it's just, something needs to happen, so.
One of your thoughts about it, we have to do it every year, so it might be better to do it what Bill's suggesting, keep it more natural than correct, the gravel.
I think we have to look at it. Either way, take a look at it. I think you're right. Look at either paving or rescreening or something. It's gotta be something.
Yeah, but when you say paving, you mean like resealing it every year, every other year?
Yeah, I'm talking about, because we're referring to environmental issues, which I agree with everything you said earlier. And I think that we need to be thinking about that right now, because it's going on all over the world, so to speak. And we need, that's something that adds to it every time we pave something somewhere. Granted, we can do that with actual roads, I guess, but that's contributing to the lots of the problems that we have around the world. So I think more of a natural solution would be better, in my thoughts.
Cost-benefit analysis.
Anything else pertaining to woodlands?
The bathrooms look great, so used them over Labor Day, so they've been improved.
I know right now, we've actually winterized, or started the process of winterizing those, so they're all been closed down. I'd say over the last couple months, we've really had a lot of vandalism with, I don't know if anyone heard of the TikTok challenge, but, it's been a constant problem with, breakage of the soap dispensers, toilet paper dispensers on a daily basis, replacing, those items. So I hope they move on to something less destructive. Would, benefit the community immensely, so.
You should start a TikTok gravel screening challenge.
Anyone that's gonna be made of labor,
Second,
that'd be great.
Lindsay Bucher with Eisenhower.
Park is not nearly as busy because Mr. Freeze is closed. I do think that the Caterpillar toy could use some paint. And then the I don't know what you call that thing. It's like a teeter-totter, but you stand on it and jump. That could be repainted too, so.
And that's one of those things you're supposed to be, an adult can
Yeah.
run there with a child, you know, of different.
Is it a
age.
teeter-totter? I don't know what
Yeah.
to call it.
It
Like,
is.
okay, okay. And then they could use mulch too, but I know you had just mentioned that, so that's it.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Mm-hmm.
Tony waited, put in his resignation. He had Three Meadows Park. The Hood, just went down there before the meeting. It's good. I see the porta potties installed, the docks are out. Looks like the yacht club is pretty much finished. They've got the grass seeded and coming in nicely. The park is pretty much near completion. Looks well kept. No other comments? Bicentennial, Todd?
Yes, similar comments to what Will mentioned about Woodlands is that the trail being underwater. So there's a few spots near the playground that are just generally low spots, so any kind of water or rain we get big puddles. There's a turn near there that seems to be getting deeper and deeper, and there's tire tracks in it. So I haven't seen who's been driving there. I'm just speculating that it's probably the city truck that goes out and gets the garbage and cutting that corner short. And so that's something that could use some kind of fill to bring back.
Widen the radius and is that by the shelter?
Yes.
Okay. I noticed that.
This is the first time I saw it last night. Was one section of the trail was completely underwater, and that was over in, I guess, the northeast corner, kind of by the older playground. There's a low spot over there that is often flooded, and right there the trail was underwater for a good 15, 20 feet, so it was impassable yesterday. I think that's it to kind of report to you. I'll toot my own horn a little bit. I was working over at the new playground at Rotary, and we repaired some of the rubber surfacing there, and so with some of that leftover stuff that we tore out, I cut a couple rectangles out, put them under the child swings where it was kind of muddy. So we've got like rubber mats there now in case you were.
What, at Bicentennial?
At Bicentennial, I put them over there.
Because I believe we do have some, the full-size mats that go.
Yeah, under the larger swing. Under the kid swings, it was starting to go a little muddy.
All right.
So I put those over there.
Thank you.
Yep. That's all I had.
Thanks, Todd. And then Berkeley Rotary.
Not much to report. The traffic is starting to slow down there a little bit with the weather getting colder. Took the windshield down at the tennis courts, so they'll probably be taking the nets down soon. The playground is, looks nice, being kept up very well. Same with the park. It's very clean, very nice. I think that's it.
I do have to add Riverside.
Is there a plan with the mud that goes, or the dirt that goes around the playground? Is that the city's responsibility, or is that the players' responsibility?
Actually, we just got that reseeded.
Okay.
Let's see, I guess it was a week ago this Saturday. We had it hydro-seeded, but originally there was a contractor that donated his services to do the final grading and seeding. For some reason, that fell through, so the city crews did do that. And that was, like I said, I think a week ago Saturday. We started it like on a Thursday. So between Thursday and Saturday morning, we had then Henry Landscape come in and do the hydro seed. But we also installed at that time a water line from the shelter to the main entrance, and there'll be a drinking fountain installed.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, come springtime.
Great. Is there any update on the crosswalk at that park?
I've not heard one, but I'm in agreement about having one.
Okay, so I jotted down some notes. I'm gonna bring this up. So we raised this issue back in November.
Yes.
And the city hired a consulting firm out of Columbus to do a professional consultation about what that situation needed. And we gave some kind of a motion back in June, even though we were told by the law director for the city that that really falls outside the goals of PRAC and it's best handled by the public safety director and the safety committee. That was back in June. I've not seen the minutes. The minutes aren't posted from the safety committee. They've only met January and February of this year, and then they didn't meet again until August. And then I believe they met October of this month, October 22nd this month. But I didn't see it on the agenda, so I don't know if they, do you attend those meetings?
I do, I'm part of the safety committee.
Did they discuss that?
Barry is the chairman, Barry
Okay.
Hutchinson, so that we have what's on the agenda.
Okay.
I can certainly mention it for sure.
Okay. It's not, it sounds like it's not been discussed by the,
I'm trying to remember if we had discussed it. I know we talked about it in recreation. But I know that probably should be discussed it. So I'll bring that up.
so my thought is that if, unfortunately, some child or anyone were to get hit,
I'm in agreement.
or, got hurt or worse, I can only imagine what the fallout would be for the city, for folks to know that we looked into this, hired a consultation firm, and then sat on our hands for months and did anything.
I agree with you. I can go that. If you like, I can go there tomorrow.
Sure. Yeah, I'd just like to know what the update is, if it's gonna happen or not.
And did we hear anything about an update to, I think we also talked about a proposed path that would go around the other way, around, like north of Rotary Park, right there?
North of the
A
tennis
playground and tennis courts, yeah, because that would make sense when it came to the crosswalk not being right on top of the intersection, but moved a little bit north, I think. That was in our, I think that was
That
the
was the
same.
motion that was.
Yes. Yes, yep. So, and I believe there's a multi-use path that was involved in that too. I don't think we've heard anything.
I'll open all of that up. How's
Thank you.
that?
Oh, thank you.
Of course.
Did you want to add something?
Oh, okay. I do have a report for Riverside. Riverside looks fantastic, by the way. I got to attend the cannons were rededicated back earlier this, actually in October. Actually, I didn't get an invite, by the way, but I happened to know that it was going on. So went down there, took a look. They look very sharp. If you haven't seen them yet, like the guys with the city did a fantastic job. So
Thank you.
I think, was Pete Lane involved in that one? Pete Lane?
Yes, yeah, he did the painting.
Did the painting, you have to see it, so like, it looks really, really, really good. If you.
The cannons were still in the box when I went by
Yeah,
last
so,
time.
take a look at them, they're gorgeous,
Wow.
like, just the paint job. Representative Haraz Gambari gave a great speech, introduction to I guess, to christen them, I guess. And then, I think the librarian, Richard Baranowski, talked about them a little bit.
Could have sent volleys over to Maumee to.
Well, they're pointing in the right direction, so good to have those pointed in over there again. But they look really sharp. Black, and the carriages are nice dark red. Richard Baranowski, I think he did the research to see what the design was for those particular cannons. So looks really good. So if you haven't,
I actually watched
stop
a
in.
video today about the Constitution ship that
Yes.
those are the replica guns of, and they look just like that. They really do. Those
Yeah.
colors and everything. It's a really neat video, about a half-hour video. If you Google search it.
Oh, I'll take a look at this.
Constitution, yeah.
So it was good, and there was a bunch of veterans there as well, so, and they were part of the ceremony, so, and the mayor, so. It was neat to watch that and see a little bit of that, so. And that was basically my report. So they did a great job, the guys over at the city, they did a fantastic job, so please pass that on to them. So.
Sorry, I have a question again. There's, what looked to be posts that you would use for a chain link fence that were installed along the upper ramp at Riverside Park. There's about 8 of them or so, but there's no fencing, or I don't know what they are.
Those are some kind of sculptures that are going to be going in. It was told to me they're like picnic or something, so. Not even sure.
Are they toward the top of the hill or?
As you're
Closer
coming
to the
up this,
Up the long ramp?
yeah, on the edge of the hillside there. Yeah, the installation and all that's been done through whoever's, did the donations. Do you know a whole lot about
I was
that?
told that it was the Montessori school.
Yeah, but
Part of
that's
the
right.
public school
Yep,
system in Perrysburg. It was a Montessori school. Somebody from there, I don't know specific dollars, because the city council was not involved in that bonus resolution. So that was brought to my attention this summer. So,
Is that the Montessori school off of, is it Hall Prairie? Is that the one?
So that's what those are about. Those are the bases for those sculptures of some sort. I haven't seen them yet. Told that they're ready to be installed. I think the weather, again, is playing a part in the delay of that happening.
This is not a comment for you, Greg, so don't take it for you. But it would be nice if administration or somebody could let us know when sculptures or something go in, because we're kind of like, oh, what's this thing? Like, I didn't even know those were there, and you saw them.
They were staked out most of the summer,
I didn't,
all around.
I've been walking around there all the time. I don't know why I didn't see them. Maybe I thought, oh, you know what? I maybe thought it was some other sort of work going on. But like, it would be nice to know these things. So.
It's also, I just realized that I never go to that park other than to like run on the steps.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is that when I go to parks with my family, I go to like playgrounds and to exercise or to picnic. There's lots of seating at Riverside, but there's no picnic tables, not a single table. Is that something that's ever been considered?
Actually, I think on a couple of the benches up there, they have like a little seat or footstool. I think it's supposed to be like multi-use type of seat, but,
I always kind of viewed Riverside as just a kind of a walking, leisurely type of thing, not necessarily a picnic. Although I have seen people do picnics out there, so I don't know. But that concludes my report. I'm done. So.
Anyone else have any other comments, concerns regarding the park reports?
I just wanted to remind everybody that Municipal Park is widely seen as the #1 park. I'm sorry I forgot to tell you that earlier.
I will mention something about Orleans. Back in August, the administration invited Aaron and myself to a meeting about Orleans, the development of, or redevelopment of Orleans Park. So there were a few other people there who, the Metro Parks of Toledo was there, a couple others, I think somebody from the zoo was there, a few other people who lived in the city. And just to get an idea of what Orleans could be, like if we were to, because it's kind of at the gateway. So the purpose of the meeting was kind of like, what can we do to make Orleans a little bit more attractive? Because it's sitting there at the entrance, basically at Perrysburg, as you come from Maumee, you're greeted with, hello, Fort Meigs on your right and Orleans on your left, but you really don't see what's going on in Orleans. And I think the idea was kind of give Orleans a little bit more, you can see it better. So, and it was a preliminary meeting. that, just to get the conversation going. There was somebody who was kind of facilitating the conversation, some sort of architectural firm. I don't remember who it was, but they were, I think it was Pugmire. Might have been Pugmire. I don't remember.
That has never come before city council.
Okay.
Some regular folks.
Oh, okay. Well, hopefully it's public record, so.
So what was,
You're welcome.
what was discussed or decided? Or
It was just talking about, it was just to get ideas like, looking at like the plans of like Perrysburg in general from like, how many years ago, seeing what we were going to do with the riverfront, but specifically Orleans, like, would we like to just, it was an idea, it was a conversation, it was just ideas, throwing out some ideas and seeing what might fit there. So, what do people use it for? What would people like to see it used for? What could fit there, what doesn't fit there, so. I didn't take any notes, I'm sorry, but it was just, yeah, so. Just want to say, attended that meeting, I don't know what's going to come of it. I don't know when the next meeting would be for that, so. And I think your boss, Greg, was there, Rob was there, so. And I think the mayor was there at one point, and our law director was too, so.
So did you get a sense that, like, you and Aaron were invited, but did they want input from PRAC on it?
I think it was so preliminary that they just wanted someone from PRAC to be there, and it could go, probably would go from there. I don't know. I don't know what they want, so. Yeah, so just want to give you a heads up on it. Something's being discussed about it, but I don't know if anything's going to happen.
And I was planning on going, but I actually got called into work that night, so I was unable to attend. That would lead us to the next.
Yeah, that's, I'm done with that, so.
Okay. Councilwoman Bourne. Review of Recreation Committee reports.
First, I would like to welcome Allison Westmeyer, and I would like to welcome Damon Gores. I don't see him this evening, but I'm sure he's very excited about being part of this committee. He's involved with lacrosse, and I think he'll do a great job. I'd also like to say that the accomplishments of Tony Wade and Randy Feringer are much appreciated by me, and I wish them both well. As far as the Recreation Committee goes, there has been discussion about a possible hockey arena on, I think it was off of Route 25. I've not heard anything more about it since we've had that meeting at PRAC. Also, there was discussion about possibly putting a skateboard park over at Rotary Park, which would be a nice idea for skateboarders. I know that's something that I have always been supportive of for probably since about 2015. It's not exactly a new idea. There was a gentleman, he now lives in Bowling Green, who's known as Skateboard John, if anybody is familiar with him. Nice guy. And he had raised some money toward that. I don't know whatever happened to that unless I'm not sure. But anyway, he had wanted to do that in the beginning and at Rotary Park, which would be a nice place for it. Also, we had grants that were applied for Woodland, I call it the clip off of, clip for the ADA kayaks, if you will, at Louisiana Docks, if you're familiar with that, if you go straight down. That was one of the ideas. And I think there was, am I missing this? There was something about a covering or something, or a shade somewhere at one of the parks as well. There were 3 different grants that were applied for.
Municipal playground.
Yeah, that's it.
There you go.
Yeah, sunshades for the municipal playground. So we voted to send that to the individuals in his group called the Public Service Group, and they applied for that. Both Judy and Rob Ross came to our committee regarding that. Regarding the cannons, Will, I'm sorry I missed you. I was definitely there, and I will share with you, going back to 2018, a little history. If anybody knows Kitty Gibson, she's the one who came before our committee, said something needs to be done about the cannons. She said they're looking kind of ragged, let's do something about it. We kept pushing a little bit of history. We pushed several times to try and get that through, several times. And finally, this year, something did happen with it from the public service. And it was, I believe, Mr. Hufford, who was instrumental with a lot of that. And I believe Pete Lane were the two that put the cannon stands together and did the work with that. Let's see. And of course, all of you know the people that were there as well. And it was a very nice event, a little windy, but it was very nice. And, you know, I'm happy to see that they're pointed at the other side, not our side, so, okay. And then as far as Orleans goes, I was taking some notes from what Will was saying. I had no information about that, so I appreciate you bringing that forward, Will. If you have any more information about that, please contact me. There has been nothing that's ever been brought forward to the Recreation Committee regarding that or City Council, so we are not aware of it. And I think there were some questions asked of me earlier about the crosswalk. I will certainly bring that up at both the Safety Committee, and I will bring it up tomorrow if you like. I've taken notes on those. The walk away from the crosswalk, there was a little bit of pushback on that. And I'm not certain why. That seemed to have come from the administrator, and I don't know what that was about, but I can look into that. Let's see. And as far as a natural walking path around Three Meadows Pond, I think that's a great idea, and I believe Tony Wade kept bringing that forward, and I think it's a great idea. Thank you so much, Todd, for your thoughts on the environment. Thank you so much. It's much appreciated. I agree with you. I think this committee should be thinking a little bit more on the environmental end of things. That would also go for Orleans Park as well, because if you know a little bit about the history, it floods like crazy. And I think we had this discussion before, and I brought it forward several times, saying that we should not pave it because that will go into the water, causes problems. It's something I don't think that we want to have a problem with. So that's what I would say on that. Trying to think if there's anything else I was going to bring forward. I think that's it. But thank you so much. Do you have any questions of me?
Question about the ice.
Yeah.
Rink, you said hockey rink?
Yeah.
Is it like something like Tamil Shannon, or is it more like the ice rink at Ottawa Park?
Well, there's just a lot of discussion at the moment. This gentleman came forward and he had the idea, so we listened to what he had to say, and he hasn't been back since. So I believe he lives in the township, and I know he just thought he brought a lot of ideas forward, and he brought a little bit of a presentation. So I haven't heard anything more regarding it. But I know that the high school needs, I guess, more of a hockey presence or something, or a hockey practice area.
So it
I
sounds
think
like it would be an actual large building with an ice rink inside.
I didn't hear a specific anything, just ideas. That's what I heard.
Who was the varsity hockey coach that did the presentation from what I?
I'm trying to think of his name off the top of my head. I can see him in my mind. He is the coach of the high school hockey team. And, sorry, I'm shifting gears because I've been about 4 different places before I was here. I cannot think of it, but I will put it in my notes and send it all to you. But the gentleman was very interested, but he said he'd never done anything like this before. It was brought to his attention that perhaps, I think it was by Jonathan Smith, that perhaps he could do more of a private way of raising money rather than a public-private. So that was the thoughts on that. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll just comment on that. Because I read a little bit about that proposal.
Sure.
As well as what's happening in Sylvania right now, which they're putting together a large proposal on a grand scale to the point where they would have other indoor facilities, and they would actually convert the indoor soccer field that's at Tamashanner to a third ice rink.
I think I read the same, yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Uh-huh.
And I know that for communities outside of Bowling Green and Sylvania, essentially have lots of trouble getting ice time. So kids are practicing at 3 in the morning just so they can get on the ice. I had a question kind of on that, but I guess more pragmatically about the skate park. when ideas like that are proposed, like how do we as a city know what the demand is from community members, and how does that process work, or is it a small committee that just kind of pushes that sort of thing through?
I'm not a big fan of having lots and lots of studies because it costs the taxpayers a lot of money. I mean, only when needed. That's one way you can do it. You can also go around and do your own poll, if you will, in the community and ask people, you know, how do you feel about this? Would you like to do this? I know that a lot of people have said to me, I'd like to see the skateboarders off the streets. I'd like to see them off going to the parks. And then they go into Riverside Park on that, I call it the skateboard ramp. They go down there, and I'm worried about somebody literally hurting themselves or getting injured. So I think that's the concern, that they would be a place for people to go, a place for them to enjoy themselves. I think it's not a bad idea. But I mean, you as a group could bring it forward and make a motion if you're interested in it, and I can bring it forward.
Yeah, I don't know what the demand is, because I don't see in my neighborhood skateboarders. And
Yeah.
it could be a lot, it could be not a whole lot, but I really don't know.
Yeah.
In general, are there any others in the area, in other communities around us?
Bowling
I don't
Green
really
has
know.
one. They have a skate park, and
Yeah.
it's pretty successful down there. I don't think it costs them a lot of money to do it, as I recall.
Where is that?
Bowling Green.
Oh,
Mhm.
I've seen them on a grand scale, and I've seen them,
Mhm.
like Fairfield Elementary in Maumee has a very small one.
Mhm.
It's built within their temporary ice rink, which is
Mhm.
a foot-high bumper. And those are all essentially wood with metal coping, and probably minimal cost to the city to build that, whereas
Mhm.
the one in Ann Arbor, I don't know if you've ever seen the one in Ann Arbor, it's phenomenal.
I've seen pictures of it. I haven't been there, but I have looked at the one in Bowling Green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Had Tony Hawk come in and, christen the skate park.
Oh, my. It's quite the
Um,
place.
So it runs the gamut of expense, and personally, I would say I'm all for a skate park.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But obviously, you have to understand how much
Sure.
we're going to spend, and,
Oh, absolutely.
but,
And it could be maybe something that private individuals want to raise money for, and maybe it's not a project that would be coming from the taxpayers. So there's a couple of different ways you can look at it.
I really like that idea. I mean, that's how Wood County Plays basically started, was they brought that idea forward. And
Mhm.
made it happen.
Yep, they came from the Recreation Committee, just like the Cannons did. Yes. Anybody else have any other questions? I think you're a great group. Thank you so much. Erin, I met your wife recently. She's a very nice lady.
I heard.
Yes, and your children, so thank you so much. All right, everybody have a great day. Don't forget to vote. Okay, thank you.
It'd be agenda number 5, discussion of potential dog park locations.
Okay.
Well, could probably start us off.
So back in September, Bridget city administrator sent out an email to both Aaron and myself, and did ask us if we'd talk about this at our next meeting, which was supposed to be in October, but that was canceled since we didn't have quorum. I didn't see it attached to our agenda items here, so this is going to be kind of difficult, but I'll go over the parks that they sent to us. And we could get the process talked about. I don't know if we can really go beyond that without actually looking at actual, maps. So, this is not pulling up. Orleans Park was brought up as a potential place for a dog park. So, let me read the email. So the mayor would like your input. This is what Bridget wrote. The mayor would like your input regarding a potential location for a dog park in the city. I've attached an overhead of locations that are owned by the city that appear to have space available. Some members of administration have had a discussion and noted some pros and cons to each location. We are still discussing internally the size, dimensions, amenities, etc. that a good dog park should have. If you could review and perhaps discuss at your next meeting, and then provide me and the mayor with the feedback, that would be greatly appreciated. So, one was Orleans Park. Can't give you more than that because it's not pulling up on my screen, so. The other one was Municipal Park.
And I think the highlighted areas.
They might have highlighted areas. I can't bring up the things on here. The internet's going too slow, so I apologize. We will have to probably do this at the next meeting so we can have more discussion. But just to get your thoughts going on these things, Orleans Park, think about the space, but also too, in light of this thing in August that I went to about redoing Orleans, I don't know. That was brought up and then it wasn't brought up. So like kind of dismissed, so I don't know. Municipal Park was another one.
Which I believe was that area behind the pool,
Oh,
between the
there's a
school
lot
and
of
the
soccer
pool.
practice that happens in that area.
Yeah, there's soccer and lacrosse. and
I don't think that's necessarily a great location.
But that is
It's a small little area.
it's a small area, but it's, it doesn't have like like fences and stuff.
Right.
So it is kind of a vacant area.
Right. So my concern with that would be, it's close to the ditch, or to the creek, which I don't know if that's an issue with dog poop, runoff and stuff like that.
I think any dog park would probably have a perimeter fence.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not worried about like the dogs getting loose, but the, like, any sort of runoff from the park, whether you're, I don't know if that's an issue. I'm just gonna bring
Oh,
that
I
up.
hope not.
I hope not either. I don't know if that's an issue. I just know that dogs at beaches are a problem, and I don't know if that's the same issue that you would have at a creek. So, Bicentennial Park was also brought up. Rotary Park was brought up. Rivercrest was brought up. I cannot see that happening. Well, maybe, I don't, there's so much that happens. Jefferson Street was brought up, and I don't know where on Jefferson Street.
Jefferson Street next to the Heights Community Center.
Oh, is that behind
One
the-
parcel there.
Behind the or Public Works, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jefferson is actually this extension, or it pairs up with Levis
Okay.
Boulevard, so
Street that
yeah.
goes
so
back
it's-
that light.
Yeah, to the right. Or if you're going out there to the left.
So it'd be behind the public.
Yeah, and then there's the Heights Community Center, it's that next vacant lot.
And that's city?
Yes.
Okay. Hawthorne was another one, which I think is that's the same piece of property we're looking at, that last one right there about that potential park.
It's a wooded lot, between Cove Court and Hawthorne. Yeah.
Woodlands was brought up as well. There's a lot of room there, but there's also a lot of activity there.
That'd be an awful temptation with all the discs flying by.
And sculptures, I mean, there's some, pit stops. Oh, gosh, no. Three Meadows Pond was another area as well. So those areas were brought up. So,
I think Rotary would be really good. I think Woodland would be really good.
so I'd like to have you guys look at it. I think it just needs to get passed on to you.
Will, could you send it to me, please?
Yes,
That would
yes.
really be great.
I will put that on my
Thank
to-do.
you so much.
So,
So I think we need to consider who actually uses a dog park. Do people that have their own yards use dog parks? I don't know.
Well, see, the thing I'm thinking about for Rotary is, we're talking about the inclusive playgrounds out there now. So we've got across the street, you've got Rivercrest. So what you would potentially have is the ability for full family on two parks, right? So you would be able to bring the dog, inclusive playground, and then if kids are playing soccer or other sports over at Rivercrest, it would be basically between those two parks, it would be full service.
They really don't want your dogs in the inclusive playground,
No, not in it. Not in it. Yeah,
though.
we're
There's
not.
some signage that's coming, pets in there, and then also food and drink.
Claire, don't you think realistically, though, that would have to be difficult?
I think it's a good thing, because, you get that rubberized
Yeah, but I'm just thinking
surface.
Realistically, though, somebody's gonna probably want to take their dog saying that it's free.
Right. I mean, there's a place for dogs. Pat, I'm a dog lover, you got two of them, but, you know, the sports fields, the tennis courts, stuff like that, those aren't dog parks, you know, and they tend to have accidents and they go ignored a lot of times, so then it's left for someone else to have to deal with, so. That's kind of stuff I'd have to deal with. You know.
I'd like to know a little bit more about like what is the upkeep to a dog park and like, I mean, people are gonna be jerks at some point and leave a mess somewhere just because, you know, they don't have time or forgot or don't care. I don't know what, like, for you guys, someone's gonna clean it up. Or is it, I don't know. I don't know if other places have had issues or if it's not an issue, maybe it's less of an issue than I think it is. I don't have dogs. I don't have animals in my house. So I'm allergic to a lot of them. That's right. But I don't know what the type of upkeep would be. And, you know, if we're,
Well, I know we do supply in the parks, you know, doggy scoop bags or whatever you want to call them. And I mean, that alone is a sizable expense. You know, people don't really realize that, but, you know, you can also bring your own grocery bags or whatever, you know. But,
That brings up a good point, and actually, you can already bring the dogs to the place anyway. So, I mean, and I was just going to
Yeah.
on it and say it might end up being a messy job for people.
I also would like to know what the demand would be too. I mean, if we're bringing up demand about other things.
I know Toledo has a dog park. I believe it's on the trail.
Oh, yeah,
Close
yeah,
to the-
where the old South Y used to be. Yep.
My son was actually on the board. I think in his previous job, he was on that board for, I believe, a year. There's also Wood County. I know they used to have one. I'm not sure if that's still in operation out near the Wood County dog warden by the water tower in Bowling Green. So we could, you know, make some calls, see maybe what their, you know, issues are, maybe with operating, you know, a facility like that, just to get some feedback from other communities. So,
The city has a Facebook page. Does the city ever do anything like survey people? Because for all we know, this is one person's idea to put a dog park in, and we don't know, you know, but we could say the same thing about anything, right? Because we don't know what the demand is for skate parks or dog parks or whatever without asking people.
The only thing with that I would just kind of be concerned about is how many people would you actually talk to in the city of Perrysburg, and how many of those people would be from other communities?
True.
Wanting all of us to pick up the expense. That'd be the question.
Or depending on what the survey tool is, they could vote more than one time. So,
Exactly.
I mean, I just think that we've got to make some kind of an attempt to get input from folks other than just in isolation making these sorts of decisions.
You can always come to these meetings as well. They're always open to the public. City council is always open to the public. All the committees, the council committees are always open to the public. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I'm really not aware of that.
I mean, I feel like one potential way is to suggest some type of action and then try and publicize it more and say, here's your course of action to provide input or to go against it, whether it's a PRAC meeting or a council meeting. And that kind of goes back to just us knowing more about when things are brought up, whether it's, you know, an airplane installation at Riverside, or suggestions for a new skate park, or, I mean, that'd be one way to get at least some input. That, I remember I attended quite a few meetings when Costco was being talked about, and that really brought a lot of people out And you got a good gauge of, and whether it was representative of the whole, I don't know, but at least you had a lot of input from a diverse set of people.
I welcome that. I mean, you represent the community, everybody, so it's obviously. But I think tomorrow night we'll probably have a lot of people come visit the buildings before the city council. So we're anticipating a lot of people regarding that.
I mean, that could be something going back with I'm not really on Facebook, but does the city have a Facebook page, or at least?
They do.
Yeah, that's how I found out about an opening with PRAC.
Okay. So that's a thought, I guess, if something is seriously being considered, dog park, whatnot, posting something, as long as it's not out of our realm of coverage, posting something like that on Facebook and saying, this is being discussed, this is potential, we are welcoming input, here are the places and times you can meet for suggestions.
I don't do the city Facebook page, but I have my own Facebook page that I have it. And I post everything on the dog house meetings out there, direct meetings, and I take them myself. The gentleman that does it unedited, so I didn't see it. So I've been doing that for a long time. So I get that very often for that. Although I'm sorry we don't have some of these structures. Sorry about that.
Any other comment?
I'd just say, let's table it till April. We'll talk about it at the April meeting again. I don't know. I moved to table it till April, and then that way you can all see the suggestions, and maybe they have more ideas.
I second that.
So thank you for bringing that forward.
You're welcome.
Much appreciated.
That'll take us to agenda item number 6, park process for administration.
So take a look at the last 2 pages on your packet there. So we brought this up, I brought this up before, creating a new park somewhere on the west side of town. And I asked, like, what's the process? And I think this was originally on the agenda back in October, and I think Brody Walters was supposed to also talk about this. I don't know if he's not able to be here tonight, but, because he's in zoning and stuff like that. But this is a zoning kind of an issue. So there, you can see the first paragraph there says, the only vacant land on the west side of the city is, that is owned by the city is within the McKinley Woods / Hawthorne subdivision. There's an attached picture, you can see it there, from the auditor's website. This property was recently rezoned from scenic to park, so this land can certainly be developed, but the current challenge is that the road system has not yet been completed by the developer of Hawthorne subdivision. All right, so, and then if PRAC is not looking to make recommendations at this time, then essentially the city would have to identify the land that would be available for purchase within the city or contiguous to the city so that it can be brought into the city. The city would probably hire a firm to make inquiries of the property owner on behalf of the city in order to keep the pricing reasonable. So, and that also depends on funding available for purchase, improvements, manpower for the new piece of property. So this piece of property there, McKinley Woods and Hawthorne subdivisions, that has been identified in the past. I know Councilman Smith has brought that up to me a couple times as well. I think that would be a great location. It looks like a wooded lot there. And I know Councilman Bourne mentioned having something kind of natural that would fit very nicely, wooded park. If you'd have a nice, like, kind of a gravel path or something like that, a natural path through there, that might be something neat. Thoughts, comments?
So there's already a trail in those woods that the residents in the area use. There's actually access to those woods on that, what is that?
Is it,
Kingler something road?
Yeah.
There's also, on the Ridge Cross Road that's to the west,
there is an HOA access point that you would never know because it just looks like it's part of somebody's yard that does connect to that wooded area as well. And it looks like the
Oh, I see it, yeah.
newer development, can connect there as well as on that Dwyer Road. So there's lots of potential access points. I think it's a great location. Coincidentally, I believe, Deborah, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but City Council just approved plat number 7,
That's correct.
which I believe is on the east side of the new development that doesn't have any houses in there. And so that's going to, at some point, completely be filled with this new residential area. My concern is that this is the same developer, which we can't see to the south of the map here, where they have a quote-unquote green space for that neighborhood, but there's essentially no access to it. And I don't think that they have, at the forefront of their development, at the forefront of their mind, how can we provide recreational opportunities to the folks in this area? So I think that it's a great opportunity for us to be proactive and make a strong recommendation one way or the other, because ultimately my major concern is that this subdivision gets filled in, there's no vehicle access to that park, and then for the next, honestly, centuries, that's how it's going to be.
I agree with you. I think we need to move quickly on it. It's there. It's been mentioned before. And if we can get this done, a developer could easily go, oh, there's a park there. Well, let's make sure there's access to it as well. So this could work very well for them too.
I think originally, the one access road, or Stubb Street, that's here, that was originally going to go through there and was zoned as scenic, I believe. So it was going to stay natural.
Okay.
And then this area over here, which is more or less field, was going to be green space, like for kite flying or, what have you there. That was, can you remember that? You were on PRAC when we discussed that, I believe. Trying to think of who was the council representative then.
Did it come up a couple of years ago? I thought it was the piece east of there where there's a couple small ponds that you can see from, is that Fort Meigs Road?
Yeah, that's more so up here in the front, which is.
That's set for development?
That is more or less the retention pond for the,
right.
Drainage runoff. But yeah, I believe it was just the field portion here because this is where Dwyer comes in. There was some trading of spaces or something, with the developer years ago, which I'm not, so many years ago, but I'm thinking the green space is just to the east of the wood area. But I don't know. It definitely the only spot on that side that the city owns, so other than Rotary and Rivercrest on that side of town.
I wish Brody was here because I do have a few questions to ask him about zoning issues.
But that did say that the zoning would change, right?
Zoning would change, but for instance, we do require developers to either put green space in their subdivisions, right? Or do they pay something to not have green space in their subdivisions?
Yeah, and I don't know the particulars of that.
See, I'd love to know that.
And I think, and those are some.
We can add to this if we ask the developers to not put a green space in and make that a larger green space. But I don't know if that's a possibility. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure that all that other area is already platted out.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
Probably.
I'm sure it is. Probably. I can pass that on to the administration. administration to see if they've got some answers to those questions.
So, go ahead. You go. My question is, so it's been rezoned to park, which has, according to Bridget, land certainly can be developed for the current challenges of road system. So as we discussed, we have several very good potential options for, as at the beginning of the meeting, something like Bicentennial, where you have a park nestled within a subdivision. And just looking at the aerial photograph, I mean, it would be very practical just to build some type of parking lot, small parking lot, if that's even the thought, or just an access trail off there, depending on what type of park PRAC or the other developers have imagined. It seems very practical to do it off of either one of those access points, at least off of Bengal, because that's the one close adjoining to the actual zoned area. I don't know the size of the trees in that forest. I mean, that obviously,
There's some very large trees.
some hurdles there.
That I've had to deal with that back up to those homes in the past.
So the southern part of this piece of property, or I guess it's kind of a second piece of property there, that southern part right there that kind of goes down, is that more like an access point? Is that supposed to be a future like road maybe, from what you can tell? Or it looks like it might even be like, because it's just a little strip that goes, just a singular strip that goes down. It almost looks like it'd be large enough for a road. That'd be like a perfect area for like a parking lot from, that goes east-west, leaving the rest to be natural. Or,
And depending on what parts of that land has already been set for development, if some of it's still available, I mean, I don't even know the logistics of it, if the city would be able to potentially swap parts of what the city owns to gain more land closer to that Dwyer access road, or even the one off of Ridge Cross, to make that part of the park, and that way you wouldn't have to do all the work to cut all the trees down. And I mean, ideally, you just don't want to build a parking lot at the forest park to begin with. So I mean, that might be a potential.
or even this future, these plots of land that are happening down below here on the
Right.
lower right, like eventually that will go up and maybe that could be an access point there. It depends on what they have planned, I suppose.
Right in the southeast corner there.
But the sooner I think we move on this and recommend it and ask to make it happen, I think like if this becomes a reality, I think maybe the developers will kind of jump in and take advantage of it.
I would agree, and the sooner the better before they finalize
Right.
their blueprints, their plans.
I think in light of what Todd was saying earlier about environmental aspects, I think we should set in mind, I really what you said about this community reminded by environmental aspects. That's a very natural area.
Right.
I would think, if it's a natural area, if we wanted to do that, would be really important.
Right, yeah.
And possibly maybe talking to the people that live in that area, if we choose to go in that area and see how they feel about it.
Yeah. I just don't like the idea of like cutting down the trees just to make a parking lot.
No.
Just because that's where the access point is now. And if we don't,
No.
if we act now before they start developing around, just like you were saying, Todd, like it could be might not have a choice, and that's not a good point, so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be Tree City USA.
So,
So just to add a few more thoughts on it, there's really nothing to be done. Well, that Ridge Cross Road, whatever that dead ends into on the south end of that neighborhood, has potential vehicle access. If this Plat 7 is connected, which I assume it will, with that Dwyer Road, then that would give potential access to that whole McKinley Woods neighborhood, vehicular access. This empty lot, it's hard to see what it is, but I'm sure it'll be developed at some point in the southwest corner. Even if they had some kind of a walking path that went
through that corner that would give them walking access to that park, that would be good. But I think that since this is truly the only park that's outside of the belt, there's going to be, probably some demand from folks outside of these immediately contiguous neighborhoods. So it would be nice to have a place for them to park as well. My thought is that, and I'm sure that this is overstepping bounds and is going to be shot down right away, but my thought is that until this plan is kind of like finalized of how we can develop this space to benefit the community, then no more plats should be approved. Because that'll, once we continue to add more plats to that neighborhood to the south, then our hands are tied. Can't do a whole lot.
If I can help you a little bit, give you a bit of help on that.
Sure.
I would recommend going to the planning, that's not city council, but the volunteers that we saw, some very, very well. And city thoughts on that. And then I would also go to the planning and zoning committee and the city council and bring forth the same ideas.
It'd be nice if we as a group came together and made a motion together, but I don't know if we're at that point yet where we feel strongly enough one way or the other.
Any thoughts or comments about the park? You like it? Think we should go for it? There are no parks in that part of town.
I think the location is ideal. I would assume it suits a need. As you said, there's really no parks out in that direction, especially no local suburban parks. It appears, I haven't actually been to that plot of land, but looking at it, it appears to be a great spot because it's got a mixture of meadows, fields at least, and then a heavily wooded area. And then 3, potentially 4 or 5 built-in access points, depending on how developed you wanted to make it. I feel it's a great location for a park.
I talked to 2 people that live in these adjoining neighborhoods, and again, that's just 2 people out of several hundred, and they both kind of jumped at that idea of what would be awesome if there was a park right here. Because there are families that use the woods currently to kind of walk through the trails. It's a lot of kids that go in there and mess around, which is great with their bikes and whatnot, but having an official park, I think would be a huge asset to that part of the town. And honestly, this could be, if you read through the land use plan, there's a lot of commentary in there about non-motorized paths. This could be kind of the start of that, of seeing these adjoining neighborhoods connected with bike paths, walking paths. Again, the empty southwest corner, if that could be connected to that park, that saves those future people from having to drive out to Roachton and then go back into the next neighborhood just to get to that park.
So Bridget's email, I'm just referencing Bridget's email, but she says, basically, if PRAC is not looking to make a recommendation at this time, then we can do something else. So basically, we're left with, do we want to make a recommendation? Do we want to wait, or no? And I would like to make a recommendation to move forward with them. I mean, we can only do so much here. Like, we don't have power apart from making recommendations. That's in our, charter. But I'd say we should make that recommendation so that the city can get moving on it and that we can take advantage of the time that we do have.
Do you have a recommendation to make?
I do have a recommendation to make. So I recommend that we, I make a recommendation that the city of Perrysburg uses this land within the McKinley Woods Hawthorne subdivisions and make it an actual park. So in an expedient manner, I would say. So I think that I don't know what else to add. Any other things we should add to that apart from
some type of verbiage with environmentally friendly or with
keeping in
minimal
with the
construction
natural,
or destruction of the existing land and trees.
So you want a passive park?
Passive park, yeah.
It's all a passive park with no sports and all the other.
I mean, what is it? How many acres? 13.8?
It is.
I can't really visualize. What would a soccer or a football field take up? Probably 4 or 5 house plots wide. I don't know, I can't even visualize it really. Just trying to eyeball, thinking of one of those person's backyards, how many. Yeah, I mean, I personally think it's probably most beneficial to be passive.
So passive park, use of natural area, natural paths, something like that.
So football field is about 1.2 acres.
It's a couple houses. So that's a very large piece of land. It's larger than you think it is.
I know that if there were some formal sports fields there, that the people, these are mostly families that live around here. I think that they would definitely get use out of that, and I don't know that I'm ready to make that declaration.
You know what?
Just-
I think you're right. I think all we need to do is make a recommendation, say there should be a park there. And we give recommendations, like that's our job. So we also recommend that the city come back to us and we can discuss options. What to do.
Isn't it already a park? I thought
It's
that-
been zoned a park, but it's not an official park. It's not part of our, what's it?
So the one thing isn't Cove Park right by Riverside and Rotary?
It's on the other side of the expressway.
Southwest,
It's
'cause
close.
There's a path that goes from Cove Port to those parks. Like, it's not like they're cut off.
They're not completely cut off,
Okay.
but that area is growing and
I'm just thinking like when these people bought this house.
Right.
Did they think that there was going to be a park behind their house?
I would, good
I
question,
mean,
but do
but
they
the
expect?
alternative
but-
is, what, did they think there was gonna be somebody in the
Right, that's what
backyard?
Right,
I'm
right,
just asking. I
No,
don't
that's a
know.
good point. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't realize that, I had this farm field behind me and all of a sudden now I have
Right.
neighbors, like, they weren't expecting, I mean, maybe they knew in their mind it was gonna happen. But we can keep
So-
it a park.
Can the city sell that potentially to the developer?
Probably. Probably.
So if we make it a park, then it
To
won't
answer
be.
the question about S1, I think for now, it's not
Hmm.
it's not the same, right?
And I think it was, what did she say? It was recently zoned from scenic to park? Yes.
Park, yeah.
Recently rezoned from scenic to park is what it says in this email. I don't know if that changes anything. It probably doesn't.
So maybe leaving out language
I would think if they
specifying.
did that, then they are looking at possibly turning it into parkland.
So,
So maybe they just want some input on what type of park or facilities that you might
yeah.
want to put in.
And in Bridget's email too, she did say, she's like, if you're not looking to make a recommendation, then we could look at other possibilities out there. I would say I don't think we should be pigeonholed into like either or. I think we could do both and look at building other parks in the future too. Like, one of the reasons I wanted to be on PRAC was Perrysburg is growing, but we're not having these parks that are being put in. Like, I'm lucky enough to live here in downtown Perrysburg, where I have parks like in walking from like I am 5 minutes from any park, like walking to Municipal, walking down to Riverside, walking to Woodland.
Yeah, great.
Like, it's great, but people who live in these subdivisions don't have that. Like, they might walk over to Riverside or to Rotary or to River Crest. That's about 5-10 minutes away. But if you go south, there's nothing. And then the people south of that have nothing yet. So this is why I think it would be a big service if we do make this recommendation and put it here, because the people south of these people who live off of Cocourt, they're going to get the benefit of that. But they're also going to, people south of that have the benefit of going to this park as well.
Pipeline Road area.
Right. And it's going to benefit the people around them, especially south of them, who definitely don't have anything. And they then have to drive or walk 15, 20 minutes to go up to Rivercrest or to Rotary. Or if you want to go further, all the way down to the fort, if you really want to go far. So.
And it is a good point that people in the McKinley Woods do have pretty close access on the other side of the highway. And if it was just considering that neighborhood, maybe it wouldn't be such, so advantageous to put a park there. But I know for somebody to get from the Ridge Cross Road all the way around through the neighborhood back into the inside of the belt, and certainly the people to the south, that's a long ways to go. Certainly have to drive for most people. So I think that we shouldn't specify at this point, like what the park looks like, but I would like language in there about access points and both non-motorized vehicle access points and parking.
That we need non-motorized vehicle access points and parking?
I think we need access points from everywhere where it seems natural, right? Whatever this singular road is, signage from Ridge Cross Road with like a paved sidewalk to get into the woods there. Where right now it just looks like it's somebody's yard. Walking access from this undeveloped space, or at least an easement there. And depending on what these plats look like, which are, you're right, they're probably already laid out. I mean, if we can get walking access from one side and parking on another side, probably parking off of Dwyer Road, because there could be people coming from the city off of Fort Meigs Road on the Cove, and they would just park right there rather than having to drive all the way down to Roachton and circle back.
I feel like Bicentennial is a perfect blueprint because it's got those two, north and south, small parking lots, and then it actually has what you're describing would probably be on Engle Road off of, what's that, Twin Brook? Where it's just a little sidewalk that goes between
It's not like a 12.
two houses,
12
and it takes you
right
right to
away.
that multi-use walking path.
How many acres is Bicentennial, by the way? I can't, I know it's smaller than, like, it's a decent sized park, but it's.
Yeah, well, then there's also that vacant area to the southeast corner.
That's right.
The thing we always ran into with Bicentennial was they had the two parking lots, but they were both so small
Yeah.
that if you had any kind of, like if there was a team that was gonna meet there to practice, it made it, like logistically, it was a problem.
Yeah.
So if we had two, we would need two decent sized ones.
Something I was sharing with you about Bicentennial is it came up, I believe it was to the recreation committee, and a lot of, I know a lot of the residents that contacted me and said, want a lot of the activity around here, a lot of access by cars and everything else, because the houses are also nearby. So I know that was something that came up.
So I would say the wooded area, make a recommendation to keep that
As much as
as
possible.
much as possible, natural as possible. Keep wooded area natural.
You know, the thing that keeps popping into my head when we're talking about, cutting down trees and we're talking about asphalt and all that stuff is heat sink. That's the thing that keeps popping into my head. You lay asphalt, you're just creating a huge heat sink.
Yeah, if you turn that into park property though, you definitely have to address illegal dumping from the residents.
Oh, man.
Yard waste is a big problem in that area. I've had to put up no dumping signs like at the ends of these little stub streets. Now there's a peacock living in there for years.
Oh, man.
I went back in there one afternoon and to check on a fallen tree that had fallen into a backyard, and that thing let out a yelp and scared the bejesus out of me. Off I went running with about a 6-foot long tail.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so what I could say is,
Huh?
That's like mascot.
so I can make a recommendation saying that we recommend placing a park here. We'd like the wooded area to keep as natural as possible. Need to take advantage of non-motorized access points and also parking, use of all access points, and probably do it as expediently as possible, I'd say. Take advantage of the time we,
Have any of you thought about perhaps inviting the individuals that live in that neighborhood, having them come to a PRAC meeting and giving you thoughts about that?
I don't think I'll put the cart before the horse, or, maybe talk to the administration about, like Bridget had asked about, recommendations, because it takes some planning, maintenance planning, and these access points like you're talking about, I think before you started bringing in the public. I'm sure they all would jump on board, and have a park in their.
I'm not sure the public, whether you have one or you don't have one, you need to do what they think. You would all have to be really how to do that. This group would be a good way to start that discussion.
so that's like the type of park, right? So,
What amenities are there? Is
Right.
it gonna be like Orleans Park where it's grass, or is it gonna be like Woodlands where there's playground and so forth? I think that that's good information to know early on, because I think that can kind of dictate, does there need to be a parking lot there? Maybe not.
so let's just go back to square one. Let's recommend that a park be put there. And that's it. And then that will roll the thing for everything else. So people can, and when administration starts acting on this, I'm sure we'll get in public input of the people who live around, and they can talk about what they'd like to see, and then,
Keep in mind that the city council would have to sign off on it. They
Okay.
have to go before the planning commission.
Okay.
And planning and zoning. The planning and zoning would have to probably send it either to, or people to recreation. And then either planning and zoning, or whichever way it's gonna go, then it goes to city council. You would have to decide particularly about the funds. If there were funds involved, how much it would cost, or that kind of thing.
okay. So when we make the recommendation, like Bridget or whoever goes, okay, they bring it to you guys maybe they take it to you at the committee and go, and then you take it to council after that.
Would you like me to bring it to the recreation committee first? And then bring it to council? Because I'm going to let the steps on this one if I bring it up tomorrow, because it has been through
Right.
My biggest concern, honestly, from a timeliness standpoint, is I don't want any more plats approved until the full park area is, there's a site plan for it.
Makes sense.
Can we put that in the motion?
I don't want to put that in the motion. I would not be comfortable with making that recommendation
Even
without
have the power to do
review.
that.
So it's not a.
But my concern is that we're gonna say, yeah, park goes there, and then city council continues to approve these plats, and then it's out of our hands.
Something I will say to you regarding the plats is that a lot of times when that comes before us, we're told that we're just signing off on what's already been done on the sewer or the facilities like that. We're not just
Possible
saying,
master
okay,
plan.
While it's here. That's what that's about.
So maybe this discussion of what the access points are, or should be, from our standpoint, maybe it's a moot point because that's already been decided. Is that?
Maybe, yeah. You can see where some of these are already platted. I don't know, I'm not sure about that one, but, yeah, they're more than likely is a master plan that shows future development, that would probably fill that whole area. I know there was talk about that wire being connected.
Right, it looks like it's perfectly in line.
20 years ago.
It looks like it's perfectly in line, and so if the plat shows that on the east side, that is just residential lots backing up to the city-owned space, then we've lost an access point. And if the same thing is happening on the south end, there's no access anymore.
Yeah, I know there was, just even with Cohort, when that was developed, you had pretty much for the longest time one access for coming and going. So it was to, Echo Junction or Fort Banks Road. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to consider, with all these neighborhoods.
So,
With the way they're in our league.
I think that would be a good idea is I would like to make that recommendation, and if you, Ms. Bourne, if you could bring that up to recreation, I guess. I don't, about the, if we make that recommendation. And we'll also let administration know too, because we need to get everyone moving on it.
Well, they would know about it, obviously,
By meeting notes, right? So,
Yeah, by the report I did.
Right.
And also city council.
okay.
Maybe not so much language saying to stop all development, but to suggest that we would like a park and in conjunction with the development, some type of, it appears we have good non-motorized access off of Angle, but suggesting to the developers that we're given some type of street or parking lot access, motorized access for parking, whether it's, a T off of what appears to be Dwyer Road going south there, or something coming north off of like Woods Edge Road.
I was thinking a tee off Dwyer, I think would be.
Yeah, T
optimal.
off of Dwyer. Right? So
Yeah, just go right into the parking lot right there, and we don't have to disturb any trees or.
Right.
So can we amend the proposal then to, yes, we would like this to be parkland with non-motorized access off of Woods Edge, Angle, Ridge Cross Road, and the undeveloped land to the southwest, with motorized access off of Dwyer.
Yeah, if we could make that recommendation.
See, I just think that this is a access point here. So I don't want to get specific. I just want to say, let's make this recommendation that it's a park, that it should be a park, and we should the city should expediently take advantage of the time and do it in conjunction with development in the area so we can have access to the park, good access to the park. How about that? Just keep it very general so that way the city can just get moving on this. And
Yeah.
I mean,
Maximize motorized and
because
non-motorized.
we don't really know what the situation is with this development, like the developers, what they have planned, what has been approved, what hasn't been approved, like, we don't know.
That
And
seems to be the story with everything we
Right.
discuss, right? We
Right.
just don't know enough information, but, and that's fine if we approve that together. I think it's a little bit of a soft recommendation of, yeah, the developer will give us, one walking path to that park, and they've met their end of the deal.
to give access by roads and walking paths. I know it's not general, but like, it's very general, but it's not specific, but I mean, I don't know what we can do. I mean, it's,
Personally, I would like to recommend some type of tee off of Dwyer Road. That seems the most logical. Or if they're extending Woods Edge north, those are two viable points right there.
I think Woods Edge would be,
Either one
I
of
think
those.
it would
Both.
definitely happen.
Yeah,
Both.
one or both.
Why not both?
Yeah. So maybe I'll say, we'll recommend Woods Edge and Dwyer if possible.
And then non-motorized access off of Angle.
It's really cool.
Is it Wrangle?
Is it-
Yeah, I was thinking, it looks like an E. Apparently it's an R. Thank you. I suppose we should get the verbiage right. if we're
Right,
making
I'm like,
suggestions.
they're gonna be like, what road?
In Ridge Cross, or,
No. Oh,
oh,
yeah.
down,
Well,
So there's Woods Edge is actually in two spots. Woods Edge
Oh.
is here, and Woods Edge is down there. So I'm guessing those are gonna connect.
I thought they would. Yeah. So
So maybe
Dwyer,
that little dip there. is-
Woods Edge for motorized, Ringle, and what was the other one?
Ridge Cross,
Ridge Cross.
which there already is access there, but it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to develop it.
Okay, Cross. For non-motorized. Okay, so what I would say is, we'll recommend expediently putting a park there, take advantage of the time in conjunction with development in the area. We'd like to recommend a non-motorized access to it via Ringle and Ridge Cross, and to give access by roads through Woods Edge and Dwyer.
Almost.
Oh, what else am I?
I really think it's important that this undeveloped land to the southwest needs access. If we're thinking in the future that's going to be a neighborhood at some point, those people should have some kind of non-motorized access to whatever this road that Ridge Cross tees into, or somehow to be able to get to that park.
Ridge Cross, right here. Oh, no, I think Lindsay was mentioning that is Woods Edge.
Yeah,
This
they're
is
gonna
Woods Edge right
Woods
here.
Edge.
So Woods
That
Edge is
runs-
gonna go from, this is Woods Edge.
Okay.
And it goes, that's what's gonna happen,
If
right
there's a
there.
lot here,
Oh, got it.
And
there's
there's,
a lot here, then there's no access to it.
where?
The southwest corner. So think
Oh.
of like.
Yeah, there's a road, you can't see it because it's cut off.
There is a
right
road
here.
down there?
But there's a road that tees off of Woods Edge that they haven't.
Oh, they do, okay.
Yeah.
So I think of Bicentennial Park, and there's the older neighborhood that's to the south that is adjacent to Echo Junction Road. And they back up to Bicentennial, but they have no access, right? So that's what I'm trying to prevent.
It looks like, if you pull it up on maps, that all of those roads are going through Woods Edge.
It's kind of in that upper corner there that kind of blocked a lot of that off.
So you're saying that this is Woods Edge, and it's going to go down?
Yeah,
Okay, so then that means that it's going to run right into that.
right, that's what I was saying.
Right, so they would really have no problem but
Right.
to access that by that little.
Okay, I'll straighten that.
Okay, all right.
I'll straighten, thank you for pointing
Let's
that out.
make it, oh, you're fine. No, thank you for pointing that out. All right, so I'm going to formally make a recommendation. So I recommend that we do turn that area into a park as expediently as possible to take advantage of the time we have and do it in conjunction with the developers in the area, the development in the area. And furthermore, that there should be access points, non-motorized access points, via Ringle and Ridge Cross roads, and to give access by roads through Woods Edge and Dwyer.
Yes.
That is my recommendation. I move that. I'm not going to repeat that again. I move that.
I second that.
Okay. Okay.
But you guys have to understand, this will never be the number one park in
Ever.
ever. Only
Unless
one
there's a
will make
heated pool
that.
there.
Will you please send me all the recommendations?
Yes, I can
Right, we recommend a heated pool.
amend it to, okay, so I think we need a roll call or a vote. I don't know. You want a roll call us, I guess, or?
Lindsay Bucher,
Yes.
Aaron Goodwin,
Yes.
Todd France,
Yes.
Will Harbach,
Yes.
Christopher Patrick,
Yes.
Sheila Christian, Al Palestine.
We'll move on to agenda item number 7. That would be you, Todd, PRAC Communication.
Sure. So first off, apologies to Allison, we never go this late, but.
She's
I
like, what did
feel
I
like-
do?
I wanted to talk at our last meeting that we didn't have, and I feel it necessary to kind of discuss this because we don't meet again until April. So, first off, it's I've recently realized I've been on PRAC for about a year, and it's something I genuinely enjoy. I like being around people that share common interests of being environmental stewards and looking for recreational opportunities for folks in the community and outside the community as well. If someone were to ask me what I have personally accomplished as part of PRAC, and if I were to be honest, I would say, well, I told our Parks Department that there was a broken board around the porta potty there was a broken swing one day, and there was some roots coming out of the mulch that needed to be clipped. And if I'm being honest, that's kind of what I've accomplished personally, which in reality, I could make 2-minute phone calls to the Parks Department, kind of make that happen anyhow without being part of PRAC. So the point I'm trying to get at is, I really like the discussion today because it does feel like we're making some progress. But I was going to bring this up anyway. I was going to ask you, Chris, what news do you have about all these inquiries you've made about the pool heater, right? And we see how the progress goes. So I feel like if we're actually going to make true progress, we're only going to get out of it what we put into it. If we continue to just kind of show up at our monthly meetings and say, well, this thing needs to be maintained or fixed, and things are looking good otherwise, then the status quo is going to persist, and that's totally fine, right? So if you signed up for PRAC to show up 6 times a year, 7 times a year for 45 minutes or an hour and give a maintenance report, then I think that we can continue to do that. However, I do feel like there's a lot of potential for us to make improvements. But it is going to take more legwork, right? And by legwork, I mean it could be surveying people, talking to folks in different neighborhoods, gathering some kind of evidence and presenting what we find at these meetings, discussing them, going to different committee meetings and so forth. But it's going to be a lot more time than our 45 or 60-minute meetings that we've had so far. But if we're gonna do that, I think that our communication needs to be improved. So Will, you brought up the fact that, well, we just don't know, I don't remember what it was about.
Sculpture.
The sculptures, right? Okay, so the sculptures. So I'll bring up a couple examples of one of the obstacles that I see, which is that we're just kind of in the dark about a lot of things. Things happen and we don't know about them. I can think back earlier when I first saw that the sculptures were going into, it wasn't even the sculptures, it was just digging out holes at Woodlands Park. And I was with my extended family there, and they said, oh, you're on PRAC, what's happening here? I had no idea. I had to go talk to the guy, he said, we're putting in concrete pads. Why? I don't know. And I think we had a discussion as a committee, and largely we really didn't have a good sense of what was happening with these sculptures in there. And so I just feel like if the lines of communication were clearer, then we could give better insights and recommendations, which is really what this committee is intended to do. And so not to pick on the sculptures, but we had this discussion of should the lights really be there, right? Because that was not a trivial expense to put in the electric and that sort of thing to light up sculptures at night. I would also say that, I know just kind of seeing folks play disc golf there, that 2 of the sculptures are going to get hit, right, just where they're located. Another example of this would be the kiosks. So the kiosks went in all the parks earlier this year. I can remember the first time I saw 2 of the posts sticking up at Bicentennial Park, again thinking like, well, what the heck are these things? And come to find out that the intention was, to reduce signage and put everything at one location at the entrances to the park. Well, that's great. When those went in, I was at Bicentennial Park and asked somebody, take a look at this and tell me what you think. And she looked at them and she said something along the lines of, it looked like somebody typed this up on Microsoft Word and printed it onto a white sign. And she kind of laughed and said, nobody's going to read this. And so talking with her more, she didn't mean that nobody's going to read this, but the fact that everything was just black and white text isn't very appealing. And if we think about who the users are at parks, well, there's a lot of kids that use that, and so maybe some kind of signage that was more than just text, right? So some graphics, perhaps, may have been worthwhile, just a slight change. But also, I was at Pacesetter Park in Sylvania recently, and they have something similar of all the park rules at the entrance points. And they chose to go with the approach of some kind of enclosed weatherproof cabinet where there's a bulletin board and just a sheet of paper that's tacked to that board. Because if anything on these signs has to be edited, you got to make, 20 or 30 new metal signs to do that, right? And again, that's, something small to pick on a little bit, but I do think that if these items that were, in the pipeline of happening were brought to our attention, then we could give our input and maybe tweak things to make them slightly better. So I see that as one major obstacle that if we're truly going to, reach our potential as a committee, I'd like to correct. The second obstacle is that I'm a little unsure of what the expectation from the rec committee and city council is for our motions. And so I'll give an example. You brought up the parking lot earlier. So that was a discussion that was presented by Rob Ross at our April 5th meeting of what they intended to do this year. We had some discussion about that day. And at our next meeting, I presented some information that I had gathered informally, and we had made a motion not to pave that lot. And Deborah, thanks for bringing that up at the next rec committee. And somebody brought up, well, maybe there's going to be a dog park that goes, and to my recollection, I didn't remember any kind of discussion about, well, we need a parking lot for the dog park.
There wasn't, I can answer that, there wasn't one at this committee, but it has come before the recreation. But
And so again,
it's only been discussion.
if that's information that's being presented elsewhere, it would be good for us to know so we can make a more well-rounded, does that affect our motion? Maybe, maybe not, but it's good to know what other amenities might be going in. The other comment that was raised at that rec committee was that the results are not statistically valid.
Yeah, that didn't come from me.
And so that makes me think, are we really supposed to act in the sense of like a professional consultation company of presenting statistically valid information to justify our recommendations? Later on at the city council meeting in May, that issue was raised again of, if you can recall, I had counted license plates at all the access points for the river, 18% of which showed they were from Wood County. And there was a comment made said, this information is wrong. We don't know where these people are from. That somebody could have recently moved to Wood County, or it could have been a company car, or it could have been a leased vehicle. And so we don't know if this is accurate or not, right? And
I think you did a fantastic job on that, and I look back with you, so proud of you with that.
And I appreciate that. So I wasn't there trying to present some kind of like professional information. I was just there to present a snapshot of what I had observed that day. And certainly that logic can cut both ways, right? We don't know if people that had Wood County plates were not using a company car or leasing or whatever.
Well, it's valid that you brought it forward though, because you are making a point that people know that the 87 obviously is Wood County.
Right.
Based in Ohio State Highway Patrol Post, 48 is East County.
So
East County, Ohio State Highway Patrol Post.
the larger concern then is if we do go about collecting survey data or talking to people, and we present it to the rec committee and it moves forward to city council, is the same thing going to happen? Like, well, it's not statistically significant, so we're not going to consider that. I don't know.
That wasn't my thinking either. So I did go to that for a couple of different things. I think it was very well done.
Appreciate that.
You all do a great job.
So the last thing that was mentioned in regards to this at that city council meeting in May was that city code requires parking lots to be paved. So if city code requires parking lots to be paved, it seems to me the conversation should have been back in, April. Rob, you said you had plans of parking or paving Orleans Park. Yeah, city code requires that. Oh, okay, thanks. All right, that should be the conversation, in my mind. And so again, if we can improve communication somehow, I think that would go a long way to do that. So I'm not here to make a motion, but I do want to gather your interest in doing more legwork, right? If we really want to know, can we put in a pool heater? Can we put in a walking path? What do the other plats look like surrounding this new potential park? We're not meeting again until April. The same thing's, it was just super slow progress. right? So before I ask you that, I do want to just bring up something else I recently heard, not through PRAC or anything, but there's consideration of replacing a playground. Does anyone know anything about that? I heard that it's under consideration to replace a playground potentially at Woodland.
I don't know about that, but I know that it was brought to our attention possibly at the council. I think it did come through the administrator saying the plan was to replace some of the equipment. But I didn't hear a playground in particular.
Yeah.
Are you talking about floor measures?
I think we're looking at upgrading a lot of the older
That's what-
playground
that's what I
systems,
was-
yes.
Yeah, I think it came up this spring, they were talking about there's like the system that you hold on to and you slide along that.
No, I'm talking about like redoing the whole thing. So it's
I don't
more like
recall
an
any of
inclusive
that,
playground.
but I remember talking early this spring, one of the meetings, they were talking about taking out sections and replacing sections of Fort Imagination, but wholesale, no, I don't remember anything about that.
So now, just another example of things that are happening that we don't know about and can give input on, which I'm not trying to clog the system of even making this process even slower. But looking at past examples, I do think that we can give valid input on how to, again, make design tweaks, changes to better suit the community. So with that I would like to hear from everyone. Is anyone else really interested in doing more than our 6 meetings a year, which might include, again, a bunch of emails back and forth? It could be 9 p.m. Zoom meetings. It could be getting together at one of the parks to look at something. It could be going to committee meetings. But I can foresee like small subcommittees even of 2 or 3 people that are interested in specific items and doing that legwork to get the ball rolling a little bit faster, and then having something more valid. I don't know if we can make it statistically valid, but more valid to present moving forward.
I thought the report was really refreshing. Thank you so much.
So is there interest? And if not, that's perfectly okay too. If we're good with what we're doing now, that's fine.
I think it's a pretty big question. I think we have a lot of stuff that we have to consider. I think that maybe we need to talk about that in April.
I would say I can't say I would commit to a set schedule every month. It would have to depend on projects.
Yeah.
If there was a project I'm definitely interested in.
Well, I'm thinking about these two, right? The amount of time that they have available
Right.
to put into the.
Right, and
You know,
as Todd said, it could be small subcommittees of
Yeah.
3 or 4 people. But yeah, absolutely. But it would depend on the project and a lot of my work schedule. I don't work banker's hours. I work in a hospital. So it really depends on what week it is for me.
We may be restricted just by our bylaws
Yeah,
to what we can actually do. And
that is-
above beyond what,
Your bylaws are supposed to list under meetings here.
yes,
And
so.
then,
I'm not talking about like a formal, everyone get together, formal meeting where we're making motions. I'm just saying, like, if we want to actually gather information about what do the plats look like, maybe we can provide some estimates for different types of pool heaters and present that to the city council or rec committee. If we just continue to bring that up every month or every other month, then nothing's going to really be done.
well, as far as your maintenance goes, you have to bring this guy around that tour. He's always willing to go through that.
Yeah, and I think when we make a recommendation, you can ask for those types of information to help us in our decision making.
But we
And
can't,
are
we don't
there any
know.
plats planned for this area? And are there any maps or anything that we can view? I can take that to the administration. I can bring them back. I'm sure, in fact, I think that's what Bridget is asking in that email. If you have any other questions, I think we just gotta ask more, I mean, for that type of information.
So for example, with the sculptures at Woodland Park, if we're to get input on that, but we don't know about it until after the fact it's been approved and already, construction has already started. Like, well, how do we improve that line of communication so things are coming to us well ahead of time, or the new playground idea is coming to us ahead of time so we can give our recommendation on that?
Yeah, I don't know where a lot, I get a lot of that secondhand too, because I don't know if it comes in from special interest groups, even Rotary, with certain projects and that, it's in the works, and I may not even know it until it's actually starting, in some cases, so.
Some of the councilmen who shared with me regarding the sculptures, it did not go through the recreation committee, so you know. Apparently it was a prevention and visitors bureau, and that was the former head of that was Cindy Latcher. And the current gal, Robin Ballmer was also the one that was involved with that, is my understanding, and I believe this, the current city administrator was Kathy. So that was done through that had no participation whatsoever with city council or us knowing about it. We found out about basically as it was happening, what we had at that point. So like you, we didn't know anything about it as an administration of the city. And some things go through administration, don't need to come before city council. And I wonder if that might be one of the questions. And I think the council was $70,000-$90,000. So I think
How much of that was city money?
it would be city money because it comes from the hotel hotel tax. And that would be the city of Perrysburg. Does that help?
I mean, I still think we need to get to the root of the communication lines.
I understand where you're at. I got that same frustration myself.
Does anyone have any thoughts on it?
I share your frustration with I feel like sometimes we're an afterthought.
Oh, for sure.
So that's, I could say more about it. That's how I feel about it. So, yeah, and I don't know whether it's just a organization issue, as in like, oh, let's just include a quick email to, Aaron or to all of us, just so someone is aware of what's going on.
Are the minutes to the RAC meetings available to us? Can they be?
They're public record, so they are available, but they're not posted right away.
Because I think of the council every time I get the report.
Could you send them to us as well? So
Sure, I
maybe we
could.
could review it? I mean, that might be helpful because,
Yeah, that's where I got a lot of this information.
Yeah.
from.
Lindsay,
They're posted.
They're on the website. They are on the
but I'm
website.
thinking like how long until they're posted? Like if she.
Like a-
Oh, yeah, it's sometimes it's the lag time between minutes is forever.
Yeah.
It's too late.
It's only a month behind because then they gotta be approved the second meeting.
That's what I'm wondering, like, can we get them sooner? Probably not, I don't know. Okay, that would be an option.
if you want me to send them directly to you.
That's what I was thinking.
Through all the channels, I can see them on.
I
Yeah, I
didn't know
think
if you could or not, but that would give us
Yeah.
insight of what, okay, they talked about this month at the meeting versus us then finding out what they talked about in October and November, so.
Well, we on council work on everybody needs to get everybody there. I was not aware that you weren't receiving.
Just if they're available online, but.
And I would also, I like how you think we should, I guess, get more hands-on with things. I'd like to think about it a little bit more just in respect to like our positions, because we are representatives of the public in a way, because we're chosen, we're all citizens of Perrysburg. So, democracy is great. We are a republic and we're a representative republic. And in this case, we're representing, our neighbors. So yes, going around talking to our neighbors is great. But also too, making those decisions, whether we ask them or not, is also something we can do too. So I'm just trying to piece that all together in my mind as I'm thinking about it. So I would like more time to think about it, but I do like what you where you're trying to get at to get a little bit more hands-on.
And you can offer your thoughts and ideas with me. I'm open to that. And some of you have done that, so that's fine.
Chris, would you like to work with me on a little bit of legwork of the pool heater that we can present at April meeting?
Are you proposing a cabal?
No, I'm saying you and I get together informally and just look into more about
Yeah.
what a pool heater would require.
We can do that. Can we get the old info from the old quote?
I would imagine.
Can you get us the old info from the old quote?
I can look into it. I personally didn't get get that quote. so.
Okay. Because I think that'd probably be our best starting area. See what we had last time, right? What happened last time, why it didn't happen, and then that'll give us stuff to work with moving forward.
So, and I would just double check, just make sure, because any sort of communication you have with the city or done like with PRAC, it is public record, whether you use your private email or not. So just FYI. I don't know how far that goes in when you do things informally. I don't know. You'd have to ask our law director, but just FYI, because that does come up, so.
Yeah.
So,
Just
yeah.
understand that the law director works for the mayor.
The mayor, okay, but, all right. I'm just saying, our emails that we do, right, but our emails that we do with PRAC, those are public. Any sort of communication we have with each other about PRAC, it's public. It can be, it's subject to a public records request. So a judge could say.
Right, which has to go through the law director.
Which has to go through the law
You can
director.
also contact him at the finance area.
Okay.
Ask Mary Jo.
Okay.
She's real nice about it.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So that's an option, you know, like,
Give me thoughts.
thank you. Like, I just want to put that out there. Any sort of communication that goes on. I don't know how far that goes to informal stuff, but FYI. So.
I'd also like to make a motion. I would like no electric lights to be installed at the new sculptures at Woodland Park.
Let me get that right. So you said no electric lights installed.
Yeah, at the new sculptures.
All of them?
I think that's already a done deal.
I can-
We can still make a recommendation. Can we qualify that with because of,
Due to light pollution.
yes, yeah.
And the fact that the park is closed.
And the fact that the park is closed, thank you.
Yes. I second that.
You send all these to me. I'm writing them down furiously, but I want to make sure that I bring them all forward.
What did,
Anything else, Todd?
To the motion?
No.
I think we should vote on the motion.
Oh,
I just
sorry,
seconded
sorry.
it. I just seconded, so.
Yep, that was second, so we do a roll?
What am I got on the lights?
We read the motion.
Yes, sir.
I
I don't know what a yes
Didn't
means
get there.
versus a no.
It was, Todd said, he made a motion to turn off or
Not install
To
any
not.
electric lighting
to,
the new sculptures due to light pollution and the fact that the park is closed after dark.
I'm
I
okay
second.
with the lights. That doesn't, no.
Karen Finley,
Vote yes.
Todd Hayes,
Yes.
Will Harbach,
yes.
Christopher Patrick,
Yes.
Billy Fishman,
Yes.
and Allison Westmeyer.
Yes.
Anything else?
Oh,
Okay.
thanks for putting up with me today.
Yeah, I just making sure you're, I'm gonna move on till we were. Sorry, Councilwoman.
I'm sorry, Marty, but earlier, everybody asked me what the gentleman's name was from the hockey discussion that we had. His name is Kevin Fisher. it was at 26252 Ruby Tree Square in the township, which is the hockey coach at Perrysburg High School. Just want to make sure that everybody knew what that was.
Thank you. Agenda item number 8, review of the 2022 PRAC meeting dates as listed below. Six dates, starting in April, ending in November. Anyone have any questions, concerns about the existing dates?
Yes, I do. Why don't we meet January, February, March, or December?
It's in the bylaws.
That we just meet 6 or 7 times a year?
Yeah, that's why it's like that. I can't vote on these things.
Yep, okay, just curious.
It is in the bylaws. We can make a recommendation to change our bylaws on, so.
That's your call. But I think your bylaws are too bad.
And we just updated them last year. But it doesn't, we can ask, because council has to, I think, change it.
I think it has to go to the law director. She has to do it, if that's what you should, or should need to do. And then, that means that you would have more, having more meetings than what you currently have. That should be the same.
6 or 7 a year seems pretty thin, especially since a lot of folks are on vacation in the summer, and we can't get quorum at other ones.
I think it's due to the fact that the park usage and run through pretty much the summer months.
Yeah.
We used to
Wintertime,
meet
they're
at the
pretty
park,
dormant.
so it was, yeah.
Yeah, for years we met at the park.
So that could change. We're not meeting at the parks. We're not meeting at the doors.
I believe the law director gave you, the former law director gave you, recommendation of your city director. And then the current law director also concluded that they should be named here as well, so they have a record of them. Because I think they're really fast, is my understanding, that no one see the.
Yeah, sketchy.
Whoever took. So I think that was the concern.
That takes us to agenda item number 9. We had 2 action items tonight. First one regarding the park in McKinley Woods. The second one being to not use the electrical hookups at Woodlands Park. Anyone need to make any?
I'd add one action item, crosswalks at Rotary. Follow up to that. I guess that would be the safety committee would have to get back to us. Like,
I would guess it would be a logical place. That would be really increasing the chair. I can mention it to him, and also mention it as well. You have to put that on his agenda. It's the chair's.
And have we heard anything about replacements for Randy and Tony?
Well, you have that. You have Allison.
So Allison will be taking whose part?
That part information I believe is that Allison, I'm assuming is Tony's replacement. And Dean, I'm assuming is the replacement of,
Randy? So you'd be taking 3 Meadows then, Allison?
Yeah.
Okay. You're comfortable reporting on that part then? Okay. I guess move to adjourn.
move.
All right. Meeting is adjourned.
Good job to our high school attendants.
Thank you.
Stuck in there like chains. Holy cow.
Never happens.
This never works.
It was laying there.
This is.
That's probably why.
It never goes. It's usually the longest.